This is a constant plus contact sensor export. Recently, shocking information was established by the United States Department of Defense. It seems that the United States has given up on keeping China in check. For decades, the United States has acted as the world's police, especially making keeping China in check its top priority. Now, the United States has shifted its strategy to make the defense of the American continent its highest priority. Today, let's analyze this shocking news in detail. Let's get right to it. On September 5th, 2025, Politico published a report that shocked the world. It concerned the new National Defense Strategy by the United States Department of War, which is more than just a policy report. This top strategic document outlines where the United States will focus its military for the next 4 years, which country it sees as the greatest threat, and where it will withdraw or redeploy forces. Simply put, the United States National Defense Strategy is like a map that shows the future of international affairs in advance. That's why both allies and rivals are closely watching every line of this national defense strategy. However, this time, the draft newly written by the second Trump administration has taken a direction that no one expected. Most experts expected the United States to prioritize containing China again. Both the Biden and first Trump administrations, along with Democrats and Republicans, repeatedly said China is America's top strategic competitor. Some hardline lawmakers have implied that a military clash with China is inevitable, not just containment. However, this draft has reached a very different and surprising conclusion. The focus will shift from containing China to defending the United States and the Americas. It's a statement that the United States will stop prioritizing military dominance in East Asia or Europe and instead concentrate on defending itself and its continent. This is not just a simple policy adjustment. It marks a major change in United States security policy, moving from global policing to prioritizing America and homeland security. This is why allies' trust in the United States will be completely shaken. Especially South Korea, Japan, and NATO allies have been thrown into shock. It has long been believed that the United States upholds world order with its military strength. However, if the United States prioritizes homeland defense and decides to withdraw from overseas, the reduction of United States forces in Korea, the relocation of United States forces in Japan, and the withdrawal of United States troops stationed in Europe will no longer be hypothetical scenarios, but will become reality. This report concerns more than a United States policy change. It demands a global reorganization. And for the allied countries, this is a game changer directly tied to their survival. Politico reports the new National Defense Strategy draft differs clearly from past policies. The draft emphasizes prioritizing domestic defense and missions in the Americas over confronting competitors like China and Russia. In other words, it contains a shift away from the previous approach of deploying United States forces around the world and exerting influence toward focusing on the stability of the homeland and the Western Hemisphere itself. This change sharply contrasts with the strategy announced in President Trump's first term. The Trump administration labeled China as America's main strategic rival and prioritized containing it nationally. Washington insiders and allies expected the same trend to continue in Trump's second term, but the outcome was the exact opposite. These United States actions are making allies who rely on its security very anxious. There has been growing talk in South Korea about possibly reducing some United States troops stationed there. It was later concluded this increased United States forces flexibility in Korea to defend Taiwan. Given the draft National Defense Strategy's direction and context, it appears it's not solely focused on defending Taiwan. If the United States significantly cuts its overseas forces to focus on homeland defense, many worry Korea may also face reductions. This anxiety affects more than just the Korean peninsula. It has already been reported that the hundreds of millions of dollars in annual security assistance provided to the 3 Baltic states will be suspended this year. This assistance involved more than money. It provided United States military equipment, training, and confirmed America's commitment. However, the fact that this connection is being cut off can only be seen as a signal that the United States will no longer be deeply involved on the European front. In addition, there have been a series of reports that the 80,000 United States troops stationed throughout Europe will gradually be withdrawn in the future. President Trump said there are no plans to pull troops from Poland, but gave no assurances to other European countries. Except for Poland, troop reductions could happen anytime in the Baltics, Eastern Europe, and traditional bases like Germany and Italy. In this situation, South Korea can't help but feel uneasy as well. The presence of United States forces in Korea has served not only as a deterrent against North Korea, but also as a strategic base to keep China and Russia in check. However, if the United States reduces its troop presence in East Asia, South Korea will face the pressure of having to take responsibility for its own security with its own strength. Interestingly, spokespeople from the United States Department of Defense and the White House have both refused to answer questions about these major reports. This may mean nothing is decided yet, or it could suggest a major decision is made and they're just delaying the announcement. In the end, the allied countries are left in a situation where they have to deal with uncertainty amid America's silence. Of course, this draft strategy is not necessarily final. There is still a possibility that Hexas, the United States Secretary of War, may revise the contents during the coordination process. However, it has been noted in several areas that the United States prioritizes defending the American continent over containing China. A prime example of this is the Caribbean region. The United States Department of Defense recently sent up to 8 warships and F-35 jets to Puerto Rico, citing the need to block drugs from Mexico and South America. It wasn't just deployment, these forces engaged in actual operations. Recently, the United States Navy released footage of an attack on a drug-carrying vessel reportedly leaving Venezuela. President Trump actively highlighted this. At a press briefing, he said 11 cartel members heading to the United States were eliminated and called it a Homeland Security achievement. Secretary Haig Susu's remarks are even more noteworthy. In a recent interview with Fox News, he made it clear that the operation to overthrow the Maduro regime in Venezuela is already in its final stages of preparation. He went on to emphasize that they are prepared to use all resources available to the United States military to accomplish this mission. This statement is seen not just as diplomatic pressure, but as a clear message that the United States' main goal is eliminating threats in the Americas. Although the National Defense Strategy draft isn't finalized, United States military actions already reflect these new priorities. This indicates a shift toward a homeland and region-focused security approach, distinct from the earlier strategy of prioritizing China's containment. The United States is not simply stopping at defending its homeland, but is also clearly taking steps to expand its influence throughout the entire American continent. The Secretary of State and Ecuadorian Foreign Minister announced the United States will give Ecuador about 28 billion won in security aid due to its public safety crisis. He suggested the United States could go beyond financial aid and intervene directly if military action against criminal organizations is required. He also said if Ecuador's government makes a formal request, talks about a United States military base could follow, causing more repercussions. Notably, on June 3rd, Ecuador's parliament amended the constitution to permit foreign troops in the country. Many analysts say this shows negotiations with the United States have already occurred behind the scenes, not just a formal step. In fact, in recent years, cartel organizations that were based in Mexico and Colombia have expanded their activities to the coastal regions of Ecuador. Clashes over drug trafficking routes are now common in major port cities, leading to terrorist attacks on politicians and top police, and plunging the country into serious instability. The Ecuadorian government determined that it was no longer possible to control the situation with its own capabilities alone, and in the end, had no choice but to join hands with the United States. This can be seen as the United States gradually expanding its military influence by using the security issues of South American countries as a stepping stone. This trend can also be seen at the Mexican border. The United States Department of Defense recently established a military zone along the southern border. According to reports, the United States military has been given the authority to directly detain illegal immigrants or criminal suspects, which is an unprecedented move where the military is taking on responsibilities that were previously considered the exclusive domain of law enforcement agencies. The United States is now openly working to strengthen its military influence in the Americas, instead of focusing on Asia or Europe as the world's police. It seems we are living in a rather uneasy era. If the United States fully adopts this new isolationism focused on defending the Americas, our country would suffer most. I really hope things end in a good way. Moreover, this change is not just a simple adjustment of one country's strategy, but a major event that could shake up the entire international order. Until now, the United States has maintained global hegemony and guaranteed the security of its allies, but now there's a high possibility that a new phase will open where each country has to take responsibility for its own security. Allies like Hanguk and Ilban must find ways to boost deterrence, while Europe should speed up its defense improvements. In the end, this issue is not just a simple choice by the United States, but could become a major turning point that reshapes the security strategies of countries around the world. What do you think about this situation? Please let us know in the comments. That concludes this video. Thank you.